Everyone in the club knows Pat as somebody that gives very stimulating and interesting talks. Pat actually moved to Denver when she was 12. And those of you that know the history of Denver know that some people move to Denver for their health. And indeed, she had an asthmatic brother and she had allergies, and so they moved here for her health, and she ended up liking it. Moved to Mexico, Japan, a couple other minor places like that in between. She has 2 children. Many of us had the opportunity to meet her son. She rewrote the script to her life. She's going to tell us how in a speech entitled, "Rewrite the Script to Your Life." Please welcome Pat Patterson.
One day when my daughter was 5, she walked into the house and announced, "It hasn't gone to heaven yet." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, the baby bird that the dead baby bird that Tom and I found last week." And I said, "Oh, and how do you know that?" And she said, "'Cause we buried it, and today we dug it up, and it hasn't gone to heaven yet." Sometimes we as adults also get the wrong idea about life. And I found this was especially true when I was doing the research for my book that I wrote, The Denver Job Search, Survive Unemployment and Land the Right Job Fast. I discovered that there were 3 groups of people when I did a lot of interviews. And the ones that lost their jobs and had gone on to find pretty much the same job they had after a crisis were the majority of them. But there were those at the opposite ends. There were those who had lost almost everything, usually their families included. But there were also some who had done a wonderful job, who were grateful that they had lost their job, and discovered that they were better people because of it. And I studied them to find out what was the difference between them. And it put me in mind of a class that I used to teach on how to write a novel. And I discovered that life is really very much like writing a novel. You kind of make it up as you go along. And if you don't have a plot or a goal, it doesn't go anywhere. And you have to change to make it work. So, and in a novel you have your main characters. They're the ones, the heroes, the heroines, the gutsy people who make things happen. And then there are the minor characters. Those are the ones that are the stereotypes, the fillers. They come into the story and they pretty much do what's expected of them, and then they leave. And then I'd ask my classes, I'd say, "Now then, which character would you like to play in your life's drama?" And without exception, they'd say, "The hero or the heroine." And then I'd tell them about what they have to do. The hero, number 1, is always tested through a crisis. Number 2, they have to change and grow throughout the story. Number 3, they have to use their ingenuity. They have to have the guts to go on, no matter what the odds are. They have to persevere. Number 4, they have to learn as well as unlearn what they know. And I like to throw in a 5th, what Katharine Hepburn once said: "If you follow all the rules, you miss all the fun." And your hero has to have a crisis. And like heroes, we have to have a crisis to flush us out and make us grow. Now take Superman, for instance. Superman, well, none of us can be Superman. We can all be supermen and women by using our ingenuity to face a crisis in our life. And this is especially true during a period when you've lost your job and life has to start all over. Now, I've discovered that the people who really succeeded and were successful and grateful for their job loss were the ones who followed the hero role. Number 1, like everybody else in the unemployment line. They were tested. But they gave up the notion of what I have to do to earn a living, and the only thing I can do to earn a living. And they were ingenious. They went out and they made discoveries. Whereas the ones who failed, when they were challenged, they became helpless. And they felt sorry for themselves, and they lost usually everything. The hero number 2 had to set a goal. And if they failed, they set another, and another, and another. And if each failure, they learned. Number 3, as they changed, they became aware of the family that they needed to change as well. And they kept them abreast of where they were. And as one character changes, they make the other ones change. And so they listen to the others without judging and without being defensive. Like my father, every time I see him, he says, "When are you going to stop this nonsense and get a real job?" And number 3, they unlearn some of the things that they have. And like their life story, that they discovered that if they don't like it, they can change it to what they want. And number 4, they, through their experiences, they learn, they grow, they try new things, they talk to people, they experiment, and they do things such as what we call networking. They'll walk up and they'll find people who have similar likes, and they'll ask them, "How did you get involved in what you're doing? How do you like it? Bet you had some problems when you started. How did you overcome them?" They found out most people like to talk to them. And so I tell you, that if you don't like the way your life is going, you can feel free to change it at any time. Just get in there, figure out what it is you'd rather do. Learn all you can about it. Sometimes you have to take classes. Sometimes you have to do something in the interim period to tide you through. But you can be the hero in your own life's drama. It's all up to you.